barbarians of Harkan are opportunists, ever eager to offer their mercenary services to the highest bidder. Welcome to Raid Story Legends with me, LeilaFox. Hi, thank you so much for joining me on today's Raid Story Legend. The champ we are going to be talking about today is none other than the barbarian goddess herself, Valkyrie. She is one of the most sought after and famous barbarians in Raid. Here is her story. I hope you enjoy it. Among the tribes and people that populate the Deadlands, the Nor, perhaps, are the culture that appears most out of place. Their original homeland lies far to the northwest, among the fjord and the icy cliffs in the tundra of Plarium Arctic. Yet so many of their clans and communities had been driven from their lands by the relentless march of civilized kingdoms. Some submitted and joined the swelling ranks of Arabian subjects. Others stood and fought until they no longer could. Those bold enough were forced to flee after years of bitter war, choosing life in the harsh eastern lands across the Valdemar Strait. There they were forced to adapt, to fight for their survival against deadly beasts, monstrous lizard men, and rival tribes that were not keen to share the limited resources of the desert. It is no surprise that hard conditions such as these made the Nord even more warlike, turned their culture to be the exaltation of the warrior as the absolute pinnacle of what men and women could aspire to be. It was this prideful and violent tradition that Valkyrie was born into, and from the earliest days of childhood, she had given her all to the great struggle of life. Nothing was ever given to her. The clan was very particular in making its scions fight, sometimes even for the barest of necessities. But fight she did, no matter the hardship, no matter the opposition. This shaped Valkyrie's mind and morals, turning into the stalwart warrior set on defending those few she could call her own. But those difficult experiences also make her blood boil with dark envy whenever an object of her desire is in another's possession. That envy often rules over her, for good or ill, and can as surely fuel undeserved scorn as it can direct righteous hatred against those who oppress the weak. When Kafal Chastiana of Arabia, one of the major elven nobles, sought to expand her influence upon the coastal areas of the Krohan Desert, she did so with overwhelming force. Having a stronghold across the Valdemar Strait would have allowed her to control and funnel the trade between the nomadic tribes of the east and Arabia through her territory and benefit from the wealth that flowed. The locals were little more than a nuisance, one that Chastiana wished exterminated or driven off by the force of arms. With the highly disciplined soldiers under her command and a number of orcish mercenaries, the Kafal's forces made swift and ruthless progress. Chastiana was ready to celebrate success and send out a letter written in the typical elvish manner, demanding all local clans bow down to her or else vacate the massive swathe of land she had claimed as her own. When the messengers reached Valkyrie's clan, the answer to their ravings was as swift as it was brutal. Now a respected warrior among her kin, Valkyrie ordered the elven messengers executed and their skulls sent back to their Kafal. Such an insult would not go unanswered by the proud high elves, and the Nor prepared for battle. Were they to fight alone, defeat was inevitable. But Valkyrie was not so foolish to attempt that. Instead, she sent out messengers of her own to gather multiple tribes and clans under her banner, neighbors, friends, rivals, remnants of the smaller communities demolished by Chastiana's army. This was not a feat that could be accomplished under normal circumstances. By the disjointed people of the western Krohan Desert now had a common foe and a driven leader to unite behind. In a pitched battle, the savage and largely distrusted of one another, barbarian forces stood little chance of claiming a decisive victory. Valkyrie knew this well and organized a campaign of brutal raiding that pestered the Kafal supply caravans and vanguards with hit-and-run attacks. They evaded direct confrontations for weeks, before a particularly daring attack finally drew the High Elves and their mercenary allies into a trap. Locked in a scorching desert valley among the Dreadlands, Chastiana and her soldiers swiftly found themselves bested on all sides, harried and unable to mount a decisive offense. Dozens were lost to the quicksands, which the barbarians avoided safely thanks to their knowledge of the terrain. And when an opportunity to smash the bulk of the horde finally presented itself, Chastiana ordered a charge that had foregone all caution. It was exactly what Valkyrie was waiting and preparing for all this time. She led a spirited defense in person, bolstered by nomad skirmishers who lay hidden among the dunes until the time was right, then turned it into a counterattack that saw the High Elves routed and thoroughly beaten. Kafal Chastiana escaped with her life, her expansionist ambitions ruined, along with her reputation back home in Aravia. And though the alliance of the barbarian clan did not last, Valkyrie's leadership and savage skill went down in legend. Unbeknownst to her, there were higher powers observing the war that gripped the Deadlands. Soon after victory feasts were over and the honored dead burned on the pyres, Valkyrie had a vision. A woman who called herself the Arbiter approached her. Though her motives in the recent battle were far from selfless, the Arbiter still recognized Valkyrie's skills and offered her life eternal in exchange for her service to Lemea. Although Valkyrie was not quick to trust this stranger, a show of the Arbiter's power was enough to let her understand the gravity of the situation and the fact that she was not being given a choice, not truly, but with the promise of glory and immortality, as well as worthy foes to fight. Valkyrie is finally convinced and consigned her soul to the shard extended to her by the Arbiter. Thus, her service as Teleria's champion began. I hope you enjoyed that story of Valkyrie. This is definitely one of the most thorough stories I believe that I have read so far for the lore in Raid Story Legends. And I love how they gave her such a fantastic background, and she definitely is quite a worthy warrior of her own. Thank you so much for joining me this week for Raid Story Legends, and I will see you in the next story. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed our video, you can catch us live on twitch.tv/LeilaFoxNation 4 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come on by and be part of our community, and we'll see you there.